All right, welcome into the season, episode 41. Reminder, as always, to subscribe on YouTube, please. Helps us out a lot. And if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, maybe hit 5 stars. How many times do we have to remind people of that? It shouldn't be that difficult.
Every time.
And there's not enough of them, so keep doing it. Today is a very, very special day. It is our first in-studio guest. We've had a lot of great guests on our show, a lot of very good guests on our show. And today is the first in-studio guest. So this is a special day. So let's get right to it. Our guest is currently I think Nick agrees with this, the best in media covering college, especially college football, really all levels of football. He's a former Colorado Buffalo, 3-year starter at Colorado. Here's a fun fact. I think some guys on our staff don't even know this. He was drafted in the 11th round by the Padres as a third baseman before he even started playing football at Colorado, which is wild. Fox's lead analyst paired with Gus Johnson on Big Noon Saturday, which is Fox's marquee college football game each week. Teams up with the NFL Network each year to cover the NFL draft. And I think nobody does it better. You've got a lot of options when you're watching the NFL draft. Nobody does it better than our guy here. And most importantly, he's a close friend. We live in the same community. He's my neighbor, lives in the same town as Nick. We attend the same church. Our kids go to the same school. We're in a life group together. Like, we do life together. And the season welcomes Joe Klatt.
Oh, it's good to be here.
Let's go.
It is good to be here.
Good to have you.
That was quite a welcome. Thank you.
Live in living color, too.
Yeah.
Welcome to the studio.
Yeah, listen, I love you guys just as men first and foremost, but this is going to be a lot of fun because one of my favorite things to do, I shouldn't say it like that, listen, a lot of people come up and try to talk football with me, and I'm like, oh, geez, here we go. But with you guys, I love the conversations that we have about football, so I can't wait to dive into this, the NFL draft. And it was a fun weekend in Pittsburgh for sure. It was a good crowd, and I thought it was a really fascinating draft. Maybe not the buzz that we get when there's 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first round, but certainly a fascinating draft and so many little ins and outs that we can get into.
Is that... So I agree. It felt like there wasn't as much buzz and hype this year. Is that why? Because we knew who was going first at quarterback, and then
there wasn't a lot of intrigue with other quarterbacks other than Ty Simpson. We'll talk about Ty Simpson, and that turned into a storyline of its own because of where he went. But that's always how it is. If there's not quarterback star power, then everyone's like, who are these guys? Because the fact is, and Fox actually gave us a big dissertation about this last year at our seminar. The fact is that you'd be shocked at how, and this is not a knock, it's just that general fans of the NFL or college football actually don't know players very well. Their player and name recognition is actually very low. So if you don't have the quarterbacks there, people sit there. We know who Sonny Styles is. Most people don't know who Sonny Styles is. So we get excited about this guy. It's like, look what he ran at the combine. Yeah. And the average fan, even for the Commanders, is like, who is this kid? What do we mean? His dad played great. So I think that's why there's not quite as much buzz, and there will be a ton of buzz next year. Actually, on my show, I did a top 10 for next year's draft, and I'm sure we can get into it at the end because there's a ton of quarterbacks that could potentially get drafted depending on how they play next year.
So to his point, running back going number 3, middle linebacker number 7, 9 offensive linemen in the first round.
Yeah.
For some people it's exciting, but for a lot of fans, I think they're just like, oh, like you said, I don't recognize these names. But then he talks about next year, like Arch Manning, Dante Moore, Julian Sayin, Ladarius, or is it Sellers?
Lenoris
Sellers, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. You got C.J. Carr at Notre Dame.
Bunch of quarterbacks, right?
You got Josh Hoover's going to go to Indiana. Mensah's going to Miami. Jaden Maiava at USC. Brendan Sorsby at Texas Tech. It could be a loaded draft, but as we know, we don't know how these guys are going to play next year, so we'll see when it gets closer.
Well, let's jump into a prospect that Nick and I have already spent a lot of time talking about. Fernando Mendoza goes number 1 overall. Zero surprise there, right? Clint Kubiak has already kind of hinted, this was a month or 2 ago, that they actually may sit him this year, possibly. Sure. Nick, you talked a lot about this too with Kirk Cousins in the building, whether or not the infrastructure around him is right, even though he had 35 or 36 starts in college. What are your thoughts on Fernando, not only as a prospect, but whether or not he should play this year?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I think the last thing you want to do with a quarterback at that spot is throw him to the wolves. Mm-hmm. And typically speaking, when you when you look at teams and organizations that have the first pick, they're not generally ready for their quarterback yet. And he's going to go out there and take his lumps, and hopefully you build to a point where he's got weapons around him. I actually feel very differently about Vegas right now. When you look at their offseason moves, who can get healthy? Colton Miller's going to get healthy. Bowers will get healthy. You got Ashton Genty in the backfield. There's a lot around Fernando Mendoza, and I certainly wouldn't put it past him to start. If they want to start Kirk, that's great, and Kirk could be a great option for him. But Mendoza, they're going to find out really quickly. He's going to come in and they're going to be like, he can absolutely start right away. He's that type of guy. He's a process-oriented guy. He throws himself into the system. He throws himself into what he needs to do to be proficient in the system, which I think is different. There's guys that learn what to do and some learn how to do it, but he's definitely a why learner. Why am I reading it this way? Why is my footwork this way? And that's something that Cignetti and I used to talk a lot about, is just his process. So should he play right away? Maybe. Will he? I don't think he will, but at some point this season, I think they're going to start Fernando Mendoza. Here's one thing I would say, and Nick, I would be fascinated in your opinion on this. This is the only position in sports that you cannot replicate in practice. You just can't. You do not know at all, even yourself, how you're going to react once the bullets are live. And so the only way to get better is to play and take your lumps and grow and develop. So to some extent, you got to put them out there to see what you have, know what you've got moving forward. And I'm sure at some point this year he'll be out there.
No, I agree with you. I think, we talked about it with Kirk. When they signed Kirk, I thought that was brilliant. I mean, when Mendoza was coming out, the quarterback I looked at, like when he was doing interviews and sort of like how he was functioning, reminded me a lot of Kirk Cousins. And then they signed Kirk. And Kirk's at the end of his career. He's probably year to year. I know he signed a 5-year contract, but it's really a 1-year deal there. And they know that they were going to go with Mendoza, and they needed a guy who's a great veteran that can sort of help him grow. And Kirk's going to be great for that because of the process-oriented nature that he does, his preparation. And I think that's the biggest thing for a young quarterback coming to the NFL. I really didn't get it till I was with Alex Smith in Kansas City, and that was many years in the NFL of what does my prep week look like? What does it look like? How am I functioning at practice? All right, post-practice meetings. How am I studying the play sheet? All right, we're doing cadence. Like Alex was preparing for cadence on third down, writing them on the call sheet. Like that was all new to me. And that's why I love this decision. I do think Kirk should start no matter what. I know it's going to be hard because I do think Mendoza is going to go out there in the preseason. I think he's going to do really well, but we also know that's not reality either. Playing in the preseason. I mean, my first preseason game, I threw 2 touchdowns back to back. I'm like,
you're like, I'm ready.
I'm like, this isn't bad. But then you realize you're playing against guys that probably aren't going to be playing in the NFL because I was playing against second and third guys. And so I think there's a process of hey, this is for the long haul. This isn't just hey, let's get him out there, let's excite the fans. Let's let this guy learn. Let's let him go through the weeks. Let's let him see game day. Let's see Kirk run the offense, do his thing. And then at some point, I do think he'll be playing this year. I mean, it's a long season. Injuries happen. Quality of play go up or down. But I do think with Kubiak there, I feel a lot better in this situation with the pieces, like you said, for Mendoza to have success in Las Vegas.
But so part of the reason you mentioned, too, you feel better about Kubiak being there is if they do play him, they're doing it for the right reason. So we talked a lot about Jackson Dart this year and how Dayball was on his last leg. We knew that. So it felt like desperation. If Kubiak plays him, it doesn't feel like out of desperation. It feels like for the right reasons, right? So there is a difference there.
So that was a big discussion last year, and we got crushed because a lot of Giants fans chimed in. And I was just listen, this is the NFL at its worst. You're going to throw a kid out there, try to save your job. If he has success, I've seen it over and over again. It's a broken record. And I was like, it's not going to work because the culture is what the culture is, and it's going to fall apart at some point. But then he had a great first game. I think he beat the Eagles on Thursday night, and everyone's like, oh, see, you were wrong. But then the rest of the season, obviously, was brutal. But he statistically had a good year, and I think he's going to be a good quarterback. But you risk damaging a quarterback. You taught him how to lose games.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's going to go that direction. Plenty of guys have tough careers going that way. But with Mendoza, I like it because now you're a first-year head coach. He doesn't have to he's not saving his job. He's just trying to go out there and build a team that wasn't good. So, like Evan said,
They're not going to blow it up after this.
they're
year,
gonna play Mendoza for the right reasons, as opposed to last year Dayball. They played him trying to save everyone's job.
Yeah, you're just killing the Giants.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have no problem. I have no problem doing that.
Trust me, I'm aware. I used to kill the Giants after every draft. I thought they had a good draft. We can get into that later.
Well, they have a different head coach now too.
I will say the best value that Mendoza has, you are not gonna derive that value unless you put him out there. And I know that that's an obvious statement, but what I'm talking about is he's, to me, the prototype of, yeah, he looks fine in practice, but then you put him in a game, and where he actually is at his best is in the crucial moments. And that's where I thought he excelled last year for Indiana, late in the game against Iowa, late in the game against Oregon, late in the game against Penn State, late in the game against Ohio State, fourth down against Miami in the national championship. These were the moments that he played his best football. You never get that in practice because you don't. There's no consequence in practice. There's no consequence in preseason. All you get to see is, can this guy operate? Okay, that's fine. But now you need to know what he's going to do. What is his heartbeat like on 3rd and 4? It's what was it? 14-10, Big Ten championship game. 3rd down, can't give the ball back to Ohio State. What does he do? He goes to Charlie Becker on a fade, throws it over the top. Beautiful throw. Late in the game, they're down. They need a throw, slot fade, Elijah Surratt, touchdown. Down 4, Penn State, loud, drives him right down the field after a sack on 1st down, 2nd and 15, goes right down the field, finds Omar Cooper in the end zone.
Yeah.
Those are the moments why he got drafted, and you're not going to see that. You're not going to feel that, even in practice, even in preseason, until you can get him into a game, and in particular into a crucial situation.
I think the league is littered with examples of ruining young quarterbacks, right? When you don't have the pieces and the infrastructure around, your reach for desperation. In more recent memory, if you look at Cam Ward, that is in progress. I'm not making a determination on that yet, but I wonder if they're going in the right direction with him. I don't think the Bears were going in the right direction with Caleb Williams.
Not until Ben got there.
Exactly. So they saved him, right? So they played him as a rookie because they didn't have any other options. He was sacked, and not all of it was the offensive line's fault, but he was sacked 67 times his rookie year.
Yeah.
Last year, they cut that by 2/3 roughly, right? And Caleb now looks like a franchise player because he's got the right pieces around him. So I get that sometimes organizations go, well, what are we supposed to do? We've got this guy, we've got to play him. But then you look at the other end of the spectrum, the Green Bays of the world, right? Where Aaron sat for 3 years. Jordan Love sat for multiple years. So your point about that heart rate on 3rd down, I agree. You only lower that by experience, but I do think that heart rate by default is down a little more if a guy has sat for a year or two.
Well, right? I think the Raiders experienced this. You can take it other positions as well. They weren't ready for Ashton Genty.
Yeah,
you wasted a year of a running back who got a short shelf life anyways because you weren't ready for him.
Right.
Whereas I think Arizona might be in the same situation. Are you ready for Jeremiah Love? No, because you don't have a quarterback that can actually excel with him. Seattle was not ready for JSN. He was just floundering up there until they got Sam Darnold, an offensive system that they could utilize him and really take his skill set to the next level. Yeah. So I don't think it's just quarterback. I think it's other positions as well.
Were there any other trends in the first round, especially in the first round, that you picked up, league-wide trends? I mean, I know you saw running back go early in Jeremiah Love. There weren't as many quarterbacks, but what other trends or takeaways macro did you see in your coverage?
Two, and I'm going to extend it into the second round if you don't mind. But the first round, I felt like, and this is probably because the quarterback position wasn't as prevalent with first rounders. You just had the 2 guys with the first round grade. But I felt like it was more of a need-based first round than I had seen in a long time. There wasn't a lot of who's the best available, let's take him. Everything was, maybe other than Simpson, a direct need for all of these organizations. And those needs can range from a specific position or element of their team to just overall roster building. Like in the Jets case, they just need players. And they were able to draft a lot of players that had solid production out of college. So the first round for me was a need-based first round, maybe other than Simpson. And then the second, what you saw is the copycat nature of the NFL. Sean McVay has had a ton of success in 13 personnel, one back, 3 tight ends, and now all of a sudden, all these tight ends start getting taken in the second round. Some of them like excelled as attached Y tight ends, and they're getting taken in the second round. And you're like, what in the world is going on? Guys that didn't have a ton of production that extended into the third round. So that's a trend that I saw in the league. The tight end position had a lot more value. I think it was 12 tight ends. It was
right?
like some wild number of tight ends.
The Eagles with Eli Stowers surprised people going that high, right?
right?
I mean, I don't think we expected them to take a tight end. Dallas Goedert is on really a 1-year deal, 1-year extension. So they'll have a need at that position. They've done well in the second round at that position, but that's another example of a guy.
I think teams are not afraid to have multiple pass rushers, and they're not afraid now to have multiple tight ends because of the versatility it gives your schematics on offense.
Yeah, it's just a matchup nightmare when you can have a tight end that can not only, this more than most, like it's hard to block defensive ends with a tight end, right? But like now it's such a pass-catching tight end league. I was with Zach Ertz in Philly, I think another second-round pick. And, that's just such a huge advantage because they're going to be on lesser defenders. They're going to be on safeties. They're going to be on linebackers. It's a matchup nightmare. And even a lot of these tight ends nowadays, they'll put a premier corner on a tight end and you're still not afraid to throw it at them because it's such a big body. Yeah. They can shield the smaller defender, the smaller corner defender. So, and it's funny that you say like the Rams, it is a copycat league. Some of the worst offensives I was on weren't creative and they would just copy plays from the previous weeks.
Yeah,
and
or they'd run the same concept over and over until the DB said, hey, you running a shallow cross again?
Yeah.
Evans told me that story.
Oh, man.
Is that a Pat Shermer special?
It was. Yankee. Why shallow cross all day long?
Why shallow?
8 times a game.
I would also say this about tight ends. I think everything you said is dead on accurate. And I think people understand the value of a quality tight end in the passing game. What I think is a lot harder to explain and realize the value, in particular from a fan's perspective, is what multiple tight ends does for you in the run game.
Yeah.
Yes, you've got bigger bodies, and you can kind of sense like, oh well, yeah, they're better blockers. But it's not just that. It's also that you're creating extra gaps, and when you create extra gaps, they have to be responsible for those gaps, and typically those extra gaps are going to be defended by smaller defenders. Right. So you're forcing the defense to be shored up in the run game by putting safeties and DBs, nickel backs into the run defense. So now you're creating a better matchup, not for your tight end against a pass defender, but for your running back against a tackler. He no longer has to face a linebacker at the line of scrimmage. He gets to face a DB. Now that DB might be quicker, but he certainly has an advantage physically over that DB. And I think that's another thing that when I talk with offensive coaches, they talk a lot about who are we putting in as that extra defender? Who's the unblocked guy? Let's create a better matchup for our back against the unblocked player.
So if you watch the NFC West this year, the 2 best teams in the NFC West were the Seahawks and the Rams. And they're both multiple tight end teams. And what it highlighted too is what those teams, like you said, did defensively. So Quentin Lake, fantastic secondary player that was a good answer to big tight ends trying to run, because those guys can also run in the pass game, right? So these tight ends get out in routes, and if you're so committed to stopping the run, you kind of get hit in the pass game. And then Nick Eamon-Warry for the Seattle Seahawks, same deal. You find these versatile safety linebacker types. It's forced them to find hybrids.
That's right. Well, right? Caleb Downs, Dylan Thieneman. Now you see the value on the other side. So the trends in the NFL are littered. These are my first round little board, but they're littered throughout this. You see the same type of players being valued higher based on the trends schematically in the league.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned Caleb Downs. I'm curious, beyond Fernando Mendoza, because he was the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Forget needs.
Okay.
Who was the best player in the draft, in your opinion, going in to the first round?
The 2 best players overall on my board were Arvell, Reese, and Jeremiah Love.
Okay.
And then Downs was right behind that. Okay. But Reese is special. He's just a 1-year starter. And I know that I have bias due to proximity. I cover them a lot. I'm in their practices a lot. And to talk with them and understand how they used him.
Was it him or Stunny Styles that people wondered if he had a true position?
Reese.
It's Reese, right?
Reese. Because Styles is a true off-the-ball Mike linebacker, green dot, Fred Warner style deal. But Reese is more of a Micah Parsons. So you can. Here's one of the reasons.
He went to New York, by the way, for those that are listening.
He did. He went to the Giants. And by the way, I think that was a great pick, and we can expand on that a little bit. And it deals with the Eagles. So I think Eagles fans will be interested in why I think Reese is such a good fit for the Giants. But Reese, to me, is more of a Micah Parsons in that if you – like you brought up offensive play callers that are not creative. Well, there are defensive play callers that are not creative, and they're going to sit in their system, and the guys have to fit those specific positions within their systems. You face those defense. Then there's guys that are creative, the Dan Quinns of the world, that are like, okay, what do I have on my roster? Now, what can I create to allow those guys to be at their best? And I think that's why Dan Quinn is so good defensively. Reese, if he went to a I don't want to say boring, but more of just a safe defensive coordinator, would never get the true value of who he is. He needs somebody that'll almost invent a position for him. They're like, well, what is he going to play? And so John Harbaugh said, well, he's going to be an off-the-ball linebacker. But the reason he said off-the-ball linebacker is because he didn't want to say, well, he's an edge player, because then you put him in a box and it's like, well, can you have Burns and Abdul Carter and Reese on the field at the same time if they're all edge defenders? Right. Probably not.
And Thibodeau, if he's healthy.
And Thibodeau, and we'll see if they move on from him or not. But if he's an off-the-ball guy, then those players can be on the field as edge defenders. And now you can move Reese around. He played in the middle at times. He's zeroed up, which was interesting, and blitzed in the A gap. You can put him on the edge. You can use him as a blitzer. You can use him as a spy. So then he becomes a more versatile chess piece than just saying, no, he's an edge defender. Because as you know, you can slide towards one edge player. You can put multiple guys on him. You can chip. You can do a lot of things to an edge defender. But a guy you don't know where he's going to line up, that's a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Which side is he on? Where is he at? Where is he starting? Is he in coverage? Is he not in coverage? I think that's the reason that John said that he was an off-the-ball guy.
So the Giants loading up their front seven like they've done.
Yeah.
And let's say they keep Kayvon, right? Kayvon Thibodeau, which I know he's had some injury issues. They may move on. But loading up a front seven, and John Harbaugh's already been quoted this offseason as saying, like, we got to get to where Philly is, right? Because Philly has kind of owned this division, right? We've got to get to where they are. Is that not like actions speak louder than words? Is that not the best indication that they're trying to figure out a way to get to Philly? Like
100%.
They're loading up in the front seven.
Great.
Right?
Okay. So not only that, but this is why Reese, I think they were like, whoa, like who did the Titans really not take him? Run the card up there. Let's take Reese. Here's the reason. Last year, and I know Daniels wasn't healthy for most of the year, so he's not going to be in this statistic. If you take a look at the percentage of dropbacks that turned into scrambles, Caleb Williams was number 1 in the NFL. Number 2 on that list, Jalen Hurts. 20% of his dropbacks.
This is last year?
Last year.
Which he was low on last year.
He was low, and he was still second in the league. Well, who understands better than John Harbaugh the impact of a quarterback that can run around and create? Obviously, he just had Lamar Jackson. And he also understands the value of a defender that can take that away. There was not anybody in college football better in the spy position than Arvell Reese. Hemmed up DeMond Williams from Washington, who I thought was one of the more elusive guys in college football. Arch couldn't get going running the football against him in week 1. He was excellent in that role, and now he's going to see Daniels twice a year and Hurts twice a year. Another reason why, yes, absolutely, you say he's an off-the-ball player, because then you can rush him, you can blitz him, and you can spy him twice a year against the Eagles, twice a year against the Commanders, and he negates something that they really see value in and have to have value in, which is the ability of the quarterback to create off schedule.
No, I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, that's what you want to do, especially with those guys. I mean, a big part of their game is not just sitting in the pocket. It's running around and making plays with their feet. And if you can take that away.
And those two guys, even Daniels, not more athletic than Arvell Reese.
Yeah, I mean, you take that away.
They will not be able to just run around if he's the one spying them up.
Well, and it's also a nightmare, like, preparation-wise. I mean, you love, like, preparation when you're going against sort of a boring defense. You're like, all right, you know what you're going to see. Sure. You know where your mic point's going to be. You know where you're going to slide. You know, hey, these are the blitzes they have. Hey, this is what we're looking for. Hey, the coverages. These are the plays. These are the base plays. They're down. You sleep really easy at night. You're not really playing the what-if game too much. You're just like, all right, now it just comes down to execution, timing, rhythm, just playing good ball. The teams that have those chess pieces that they can move around and you don't necessarily know where they're going to line up, what package is going to be out there, those are the ones that keep quarterbacks up at night. Because for me, it was always like, all right, well, if he's over here, this is what we got to be aware of. This is what we got to be aware of. Oh, man, our left tackle's injured this week. They're probably going to put him over here, but now we're going to chip. Hey, now we're not going to get this flat control. you spend a lot more time in your prep focusing just on that one player. And that's also why teams and coaches, like when they play the chess pieces where they'll run a couple packages the week before in a game just so you have to rep that and waste time. They're probably not going to do it against you, but they do that and it messes with you. So I think that's a brilliant move. And I think making, Philadelphia, I mean, they have been the king of the NFC East for the last several years. I mean, taking away Jalen Hurts' legs, taking away the run game, making that dynamic, making it, that's brilliant.
The two most versatile defenders in college football were Reese and Downs, and they both went to the NFC East. That's something the Eagles are going to have to deal with.
Downs went to the Cowboys, right?
Downs went to the Cowboys.
At number 10?
11?
10 or 11, something like that?
It was 11. They traded up one spot with the Dolphins. But he's a versatile piece, and so those quarterbacks are going to have to deal with him as well because he makes the recognition of coverage almost impossible.
Yeah.
Because he is Ed Reed in that he can be almost near the line of scrimmage and have the deep half, and you're like, wait. What's going on? And so their disguise at Ohio State was really good. It's one of the reasons Arch had such a tough day in his first start against them in that Week 1 game.
He gets a lot of comps to Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu.
Yeah, because of size.
Right, but those guys were never called undersized, though. But then Caleb is called undersized. And Caleb, I'm guessing, Caleb's probably one of the, I don't know this for a fact, but he's probably one of those guys that squats like 500 pounds. Like every good football player squats like 500 pounds, it feels like.
He's strong.
And so you say undersized, but I'm sure he's strong as hell.
He's very strong. He's very smart. He's the smartest player that I've ever covered.
Is that right?
Yeah. Wow. In our conversations, I'm like, okay, you get it 100%. Matt Patricia echoed that to me. I would say I think that I made that comparison because of his versatility, because of his instincts. On a defense that was littered with NFL players, if you would pause the film, the moment that the play materialized, the guy making the first step towards the ball is always Caleb Downs. His instincts, his preparation, it's always second to none. Where the comparison does fall flat, and I have to admit this, is that he's not nearly as good as those guys in coverage. In particular, slot nickel man coverage. Okay. He doesn't quite have those skills. He's better in zone, and then he's better instinctually around the football. They built that defense completely around him in their national championship year, allowed him to be more in the middle of the field. But his awareness of what's going on, like for instance, something that Troy did and certainly Ed did a lot of is they would trigger outside of the schematics. Yeah. I know I'm responsible for this, but I see what they're doing and I'm just going to go stop it.
It was a nightmare to prepare for too.
Correct. Because you're like, well, he's not supposed to be there.
Yeah. So you can't, is he going to do that next time? We don't know because it's outside the rules.
It's outside the rules. And Caleb played outside the rules, outside of the schematics really well because of his preparation. Just a quick story about Caleb Downs. He would go through practice on Monday and go through his film study. He would go have dinner and he would go back. And this is something that's not as common in college football anymore. Maybe it was back in the day when the only film was in the building and you didn't have iPads to take home. But on Monday nights, he would go back in from 8 to about midnight and basically just have an entire night with Matt Patricia. And they would just watch defense. They would talk football. And that's where he would derive some of those. Hey, listen, when you see that motion, that short motion out of that formation in this spot on the field, this is what they're doing. Yeah. And then you would see it materialize during the course of the game. I would even be sitting in the booth like, that's not a blitz. Yeah. It's not a blitz structure or anything. And he's in the backfield triggering, and it's all based on that type of preparation.
Well, it's interesting because we're talking general NFC East right now, and two defenses. I think the Giants last year had 38 sacks, and they were not good defensively overall. Mm-hmm. And they've added a big piece defensively. And then now the Cowboys have added a very versatile piece defensively.
And they were terrible on defense, in particular against the pass.
Yeah. So these teams are obviously loading up to try to hit the standard of the division, which has obviously been the Eagles for a long time.
No, and I just think back, with Downs and just coverages. As a quarterback, I'm just thinking about just messing with the coverages, playing outside the structure. It's very difficult for a quarterback to comprehend that because it's hard to prepare for it. You see it on film, and man, I'm really just going to have to key in post snap. And I go back to my rookie year. We're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Rondé Barber's at safety. Just a legend, so good. And Jason Avant grabbed me before the game. He's like, hey, McNabb, he used to have McNabb's number. Like, you got to really watch him.
You're like, thanks.
Yeah, no, I'm going to give you advice.
Really?
Do not look where you're throwing the ball. the entire game.
Just no lookers.
No, he's literally like, if you do, he's gonna crush you. And he's like, he takes young quarterback. He basically told me like he's really good with he's good with all the quarterbacks, but especially young quarterbacks. He knows you stare down, like young quarterbacks stare down reads.
Sure.
Just do not look where you're gonna throw when you're dropping. So the whole game, if I'm throwing.
Jason, can you tell me that on Tuesday?
I remember dropping back, and I'd be like looking like hard to the right, knowing I'm throwing like all the way over here and like flipping back. But it was the best advice I got because that was our like one victory later in the years. Unfortunately, Andy Reid's last year, and it felt like we won the Super Bowl, and a lot of it's because of the advice Jason gave me. It's like awesome. I looked off Rondé like hard the entire game, but he was so impressive. We were running, wide zone and all these different plays. And he was the one from the half safety making the plays, coming down, playing out, because he knew the keys. He knew what to see. He knew the motions. As a quarterback playing against him as a rookie, I was so impressed. And anytime I ever run into him, I'll be like, dude, like, because he was doing TV like throughout my career, and I was like, dude, to this day, like your performance versus us was like one of those ones I'll never forget because you were and he was old at that point. He was older, and he was still the one making all the tackles. He was all over the place. And he was the one running that defense. So having a player that can play like structurally within the defense, but like get outside it with your disguise and being able to key like, hey, it looks like he's blitzing, but he's really he knows that the schematics of the opposing offense. Those are the players that are game-changing franchise players. So
it takes time to get there, though, because it requires trust. For a DC to let you really do that, he's got to really trust you.
Well, I mean, the thing is, the Cowboys were so bad defensively last year that I feel like you have to go in there and do the same thing Ohio State did, and just like you got to build it around them.
Yeah.
Like, don't go in there arrogantly like, oh, we were good. Dallas, your offense was great. I was actually really impressed with your offense. Your defense sucked, and you're trying to beat the Eagles. So you get players like that, you got to build it around the players and let them go. Like, you're not going to do worse than you did last year. So
it's not just the Eagles. Look at the offense that Seattle put on the field. Look at the offense that the 49ers can potentially put on the field. The Rams, obviously. So any of those teams in the NFC, they understand that, like, we better play great on defense.
Yeah. I think most people felt the surprise of the first round was Ty Simpson.
Sure.
Just from the standpoint of, like, everyone thought that he'd creep up in the first simply because of need.
Yeah.
And I think he's talented enough to be there. But that felt like the surprise of the draft going to the Rams, right? With Matt Stafford year to year, it makes sense. Sure. But what were your thoughts on the pick?
So there's really three different, and I think they're all unique and separate from one another of my thoughts on this. One is just the evaluation of Ty. Is he a first-round player? Yes. He makes all the throws. He is an anticipatory thrower. I didn't think anybody, even Mendoza was great outside the numbers, but between the numbers and the intermediate zones, layering the ball over the linebackers in front of safeties, attacking seams with anticipation, no one made better throws than Ty Simpson in that regard. So is he good enough to get selected where he did? Yes. Yeah. Okay, now
15 starts too, by the way, right?
Only 15
at Alabama.
starts. So, that's right.
Yeah, and relatively inexperienced.
And
you're big on career starts. I know that.
Huge.
Like, that's important to you.
And
right?
by the way, Nick's in this stat. I'll just give this stat, and I've said it many times other places. If you look at the quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls this century, okay, so we've had 25, and the average college career for a Super Bowl winning quarterback is 34 starts, 1,100 passing attempts, and 70 touchdowns. That's the average. The low end for guys that have won a Super Bowl are actually three guys that didn't get to that 30 mark. The three are Aaron Rodgers, because they didn't include his junior college starts. Sam Darnold, who played 2 years at USC and had, I think, 27 starts, and Tom Brady. Those are the three most inexperienced quarterbacks to win Super Bowls this century. That's wild. Wow. That's wild. So it just doesn't.
Fernando had 36, I think, starts
he had
in college?
35, 1,000 attempts, and 71 touchdowns. His numbers are like identical to the average. Ty Simpson had 15. So then you get into the decision for the Rams. If you view the Rams' first round as Trent McDuffie, you think, great, the Rams got better, and specifically in an area where they needed to get better, in particular facing Seattle and potentially San Francisco if they get healthier. Then if you just view it as, well, why didn't they improve themselves? I got texts from people in the organization at Seattle. My phone buzzes on the desk, and I look at it, and it says, we'd like to thank the Rams for not improving themselves. And I was like, yikes. That's a tough one. But that's their sentiment, right? And when you're that close, you're a muffed punt away from going to the Super Bowl and probably winning it with what was going on the AFC side. You'd think, okay, look at the players they left on the board. Ty Simpson gets drafted. Vanya Ioane, the best offensive lineman in the draft, he's the next pick. Reuben Baines, the pick after that. Kenyon Sadiq, the pick after that. Blake Miller, Monroe Freeling, Makai Lemon. Those are all the players right after. So if you're a Rams fan, you're like, hold on. Those guys would have helped us this year potentially win a Super Bowl. That's where the question comes in with the Rams. And then there's this third aspect, and this is actually the one I'm most worried about. You talk about the experience. Yes, it's only 15 starts, but he's the son of a coach. He's been around football. Maybe you can talk yourself into, nope, he plays more experience than what his starts would suggest. Here's the problem. You're drafting him to sit. Admittedly, maybe probably 2 years. Well, he sat for 3 at Alabama. So you're talking about his last high school year is 2021. Last year he has 15 starts, and now you want him to sit 2 more years. So we're talking about 2028 before he's maybe your guy. Maybe. That's 6 football seasons where you've got 15 starts. That's not enough. Yeah. And that's the one that I get more worried about from a Rams perspective.
Let's think about it from a Rams standpoint, but let's set aside Ty, like his credentials himself, and focus on the Rams drafting a backup right now with Matt Stafford. So I think there's still something to be said for a disciplined franchise making a move, thinking about the future. Now, time will tell if this is the right one, right? If they don't get another Super Bowl under Matt Stafford, let's say Matt has another year like he had this year, best of his career, arguably, right? If they don't get another Super Bowl underneath him, there's always going to be speculation that, man, they should have gone a different direction in 2026.
Yeah, you didn't.
They should have added a weapon.
You know, you didn't squeeze the lemon, if you will. Maybe Makai Lemon.
But there you go.
Maybe.
So, but then if we fast forward 3 years and they have their next quarterback, now it remains to be seen if he can be that guy given the inexperience. I don't know that we pay enough attention because the reward is not immediate. Right? It takes time. It's like that delayed gratification, right? Disciplined franchises, which I think the Rams are trying to be in this regard, they make those kind of moves. They're not popular. People look at them like, what were people saying when Green Bay drafted Jordan Love? You guys are idiots. Like, you maximize the window with Aaron Rodgers, get him another weapon. You never take first rounders. You never take receivers in the first round. You're missing an opportunity here.
And they would have been right.
And they have a franchise quarterback.
No, they would have been right.
You think,
they
if the playoffs weren't expanded, they would have never even made the playoffs.
So you think Jordan Love was a mistake?
I mean, they didn't enhance Aaron Rodgers last year. I'm not saying he's not. I mean, he's a franchise quarterback. But if we're talking about enhancing the team with a veteran guy like Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers at that time, you didn't do that, and you did not win a Super Bowl, and you didn't.
Okay, so by that line of thinking,
let me ask you this:
do you
what's
think
the point next year for the Rams
to win the Super Bowl?
Yeah. So does Ty Simpson?
If they don't,
right?
Was that the right pick?
If he goes out and throws for 4,500 yards and 50 touchdowns again, which is like,
he gets a second MVP.
Right, but does a receiver
He's already a Hall of Famer. He already made more money than anybody in the history of the league. Like, there's nothing else to achieve for the Rams other than winning the Super Bowl.
Was Sean McVay pissed then? And
to
be clear,
I've got backstory
Sean knows that they were drafting him. Sean's involved in this.
No. Sean drafted him.
Right.
Okay, so here's how it went.
Okay,
this is good. Here we go.
is friends with Ty Simpson's dad.
Okay.
And so when the Simpson family, during the year, first of all, his first 6 or 7 starts, there was talk that he'd be the first overall pick. Mm-hmm. He was playing that well.
Yeah.
And so his dad went to Les and just started talking to him like, okay, hey, we need help here. Is this going to be a good year for him to come out? And they start those conversations. Les falls in love with him. Says, Sean, you got to evaluate this guy. This is months ago. Sean starts evaluating Ty Simpson, falls in love with him. This was Sean's decision.
Okay.
And he's even said this at other outlets. I think he said it to Peter Schrager. Sean did himself. His body language and behavior in the press conference was strictly for Matt Stafford.
Is out of respect for Matt?
It was out of respect for Matt
but I
Stafford.
Thought he probably overdid that a little
probably,
bit. Right?
Probably.
Because he knows he was giving people the impression that, like, I don't know if I like his body language to me screamed, I don't know if I like what our GM did, which I didn't buy because Sean is too good of a coach to not be involved in those decisions.
100%.
I get it. But to have that body language just to send, look, Matt Stafford knows that he's the guy.
Yeah.
Right? Matt Stafford also knows that he's maybe got 1 or 2 years left.
And they had a conversation. So Sean went and had a conversation with Matt the day of the first round on Thursday. And it was made abundantly clear that this move was going to be for whenever Matt decided to move on.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, Sean knew the pick.
Yeah.
And
I thought it was odd the way he chose to do that. That, like, Matt knows, and like everyone knows that Matt is the guy.
Yeah.
Fans know, Matt knows. Matt's job isn't threatened by anybody. He just had the best year of his career.
But remember, The only way, and I know this is threading the needle here, but the only way this is considered a brilliant move is if they win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years and Ty Simpson pans out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can second guess it.
Yeah.
That is a small window.
So you would have gone a different direction.
I mean, listen, there's a reason I'm not a GM right now. I agree with everything Joel just said. Like, time will tell. But, I mean, if I have Matthew Stafford and I'm right there, I mean, if you know this guy's for sure going to take over from Matthew and you feel that strongly, you have to go, and you've done that much research. But at the same time, if I have Matthew Stafford and he's playing his best ball and I know he's year to year and I really want to win a Super Bowl, I want to give him a tool to help him win a Super Bowl.
And you don't know if Devontae is going to have the type of year that he had.
So you sit down and you say, like, where I mean, if Ty Simpson doesn't go to the Rams,
where okay?
Yeah, where's he going to go if the Rams don't pick him? Where do you think he would have went?
Cardinals would have jumped up.
They would have jumped up and grabbed him,
and they would have come back.
I mean, I will say this for Ty Simpson, this is huge.
Oh.
You have the best opportunity to succeed because you're with Matthew Stafford, you're with Sean McVay, and honestly, it's cool. Like, now hearing the backstory, and I've heard a little bit about that. We've talked about it where, out of respect for Matthew Stafford, let's remember Sean McVay is like the same age as Matthew Stafford, very similar. So, like, it's not like Bill Belichick always crushing Tom Brady and never giving Tom appreciation. This is like the opposite. They're like best buds. This is like peer to peer, like respect. Yeah, did he overplay it? Maybe, but, like, man, it's cool to have a head coach that respects you enough and loves you enough to be like, hey, out of respect for our NFL MVP and a guy who we've won a Super Bowl with and is the leader of our team, I got to play it cool because I don't want to be up here like, yeah, man, like, I get that. Like, I respect that. Like, that's pretty cool that McVay did that.
I will say the pick that gets overlooked because this is just sucking the oxygen out of the room, this Ty Simpson pick. Max Clare is a really good player, and they got him as a tight end in the second round. So they did get, if he pans out, then Sean's going to be like, we did, guys. Hey, you wanted a weapon. Look, we got another one as a tight end. Claire's a good player.
To be clear, for those listening, like, I think the reason they had the latitude to do this, and you alluded to it, is Trent McDuffie, right? And and Jalen Watson, for that matter. Both those guys are really good players. They added the secondary through free agency. They addressed a need. They paid Trent McDuffie. He's there long term. That was a need for them, right? That was obvious in that run last year that they had issues on the back end. Like, Seattle just torched them. Right?
So they addressed it.
And then that gave them the latitude to go get a guy like this in the first round. Time will tell whether it was the right move. Yeah. It's easily questionable, right? But time will tell whether it was the right move.
And they got a new special teams coach.
That might have been the biggest thing,
right? Let's just keep it real. They didn't have to draft him. They just got him.
Right.
So they addressed it. They addressed it and they got better. I mean, listen, the Rams were, throughout the course of the year, they were so impressive.
Right.
And it's just, it's so amazing seeing Matthew play. I mean, before the season, we're sitting there with his back injury, like, will this guy even play this year?
Didn't even do most of training camp.
And then he goes and wins the NFL MVP. Truly amazing.
He was incredible.
Stud. All right, let's transition to the Eagles and take a look at what they did. So I want to start with their first round pick, Makai Lemon. I think there's a couple things going on here. The first obvious one is we've talked a lot about A.J. Brown on this show and what the future of A.J. Brown is. The presumption as of today is that June 1 is the date, and then a deal will be consummated before or at or after June 1 for cap purposes, and A.J. Brown is probably on his way somewhere else. Remains to be seen if that plays out. They go get Makai Lemon, trade up to draft Makai Lemon, jump in front of Pittsburgh. He was on the phone with Pittsburgh. They jump in front of Pittsburgh at number 20 to draft Makai. Nick and I spent a lot of time this season dissecting the Eagles offense and the various issues we saw. We're going to set aside the play calling for a second and focus on one thing I think that really hurt them this year is I don't think they really had a guy to own the middle of the field, right? A playmaker, yards after catch guy in the middle of the field. A lot of times people look at tight ends for that, right? Dallas Goedert's a good player, but he wasn't really being used consistently. Some of it was injury too, being used that way consistently. And so we started talking about how they don't have that body type at slot. Now, Makai can move outside as well. I think he can do both, but they don't have that body type to really own the middle of the field as a true slot receiver, right? And so I suggested back in November that, hey, keep an eye on this kid at SC. I think Makai Lemon could be a really good fit. We kind of played this flashback on our last show. I think he could be a really good fit for this offense, and really, I think Makai's a 100-catch kind of guy, volume guy, if he's healthy.
Yeah.
And I really think that's what this offense lacked. Now, I know you're familiar with Carnell Tate, who was taken before him, Jordan Tyson. I think they're different receivers. I think Makai can fit a need in this offense, even if A.J. Brown's not there and you have Devontae Smith, Dontavian Wicks, Hollywood Brown. There still is that void that I think he can fill. Your thoughts on him as a prospect for the Eagles?
Okay, so first, him as a love him. I love him. He's tough. He is incredibly tough. He will go get it in the slot. He will find space, which I don't think is common for a college guy to have that much spatial awareness. They have a lot of freedom in that offense, as you know. Go to green grass, they call it. And he does a great job of doing that. So I love him as a prospect. Here's the other reason I really loved him with the Eagles is because you're exactly right about the slot. A slot does two things for a quarterback. One, it can get the ball out of your hands quicker. You don't have to wait for those down the field routes. You don't have to wait for those route structures. So it helps out the offensive line and helps out the quarterback. That's one of the reasons why Tom was so successful late into his career, is he had targets that he could go to quickly all the time and would just wear guys out, whether it was out of the backfield, whether it was Gronk, whether it was one of those slot receivers. And so that should help Jalen get the ball out of his hands, which at times is a problem because he can hold it a little bit. So that's just from the passing game perspective. Then you take a look at what I would look. Their run game was Saquon and Jalen in the backfield. I know that they didn't do a ton of RPOs. Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, they didn't do it. They were down on RPOs this last year. Up on hitches.
Okay, so partly
50-50 balls and hitches, man.
I think part of that.
We're baiting him. We're baiting him.
Part of that is
topic switch. Is Jalen an elite passer?
Oh gosh, here we go.
You'll get assassinated on our show. Be careful.
Up.
Yeah, right.
So part of that is that you've got to have the right type of wide receiver to be good at RPOs, and typically slot guys are where you want to attack. Why is that? Well, because the people that you're RPOing off of are typically responsible for the middle of the field. Typically, and if it's just an outside throw, then it's a ratio throw, right? If you're just doing a bubble or a run, it's just based on coverage alignment. It's not actually putting a defender in conflict, as you know. So those are ratio throws.
It's a pre-snap RPO.
Those are RPOs, but they're not
really a PRO.
Yeah,
a pass run option for most quarterbacks.
That's a good way.
Not really. We had Stout on the show, and we had that talk. It's like, is it run pass or is it really pass run?
But if you have a true RPO, you're putting a defender in conflict.
Yep.
Well, to put a defender in conflict, you have to have a quarterback that can use his legs. You have to have a running back that can be electric, and obviously Saquon can. And you have to have the target that can own that space in the middle of the field. They didn't have that. And a tight end typically is not that type of a target in the RPO game. Right. They're just not. So Makai fits on that front as well. I think Makai and his presence can actually help the run game because of the conflict you put on the safeties or linebackers, whoever that hook curl defender is. Typically, you can run those RPOs off of him. So it's another reason, just from an in-depth standpoint, I thought that was a really good selection. And by the way, trading with the Cowboys to get up to we were all like, whoa, the Eagles and Cowboys don't typically, make trades with one another. So the fact that the Eagles were able to jump up there and get Makai Lemon, I liked that pick a lot. There can
be some run game replacement with him too.
100%.
And moving the ball quickly. And
100%.
Yeah, he's an intriguing prospect, and he can also. I mean, we haven't hit on his ability to make plays down the field. I think the best comp for him on the way he plays the ball in the air, given his size down the field, is Steve Smith.
Oh, that's a great one.
Steve, I think, is more of a strider, right? Like Steve had track stride.
Yeah.
And I know Makai's 40 wasn't amazing, but I still think there's some similarities in the way he goes after the ball with his size.
Dude, he is so tough at the catch point.
It's incredible.
I mean, how many times did Jade Mayava just loft the ball in the middle of the field, and that guy is after it, and he is like a piranha after the football. So from that standpoint, I really like it. It's also puts a lot of stress on your walkout defender if you don't want to play a heavy box, or even if you do, and that walkout defender is responsible for the outside gap, but he's also responsible for coverage over the slot. Where does he align? If he's aligned too close to the line of scrimmage, you can just throw it out there and you can bubble our ratio on him. Yeah. So the stress on the walkout is another piece.
You get the sense that Mannion will be able to take advantage of this better than Kevin Patullo did too.
Right? Well, I think the big thing with you mentioned green grass, right? That's a term from the air raid system.
Yep.
Leach's air raid system. I ran the system at Arizona, and a lot of our things were like, find the green grass. Hey, quarterback, you're reading. We weren't really reading coverages. Hey, where's the grass? That's what route you want to get a ball. Hey, a lot of grass in the middle of the field. Let's find a way on verticals to get a bender there. Or hey, let's get a basic there. Having receivers that know how to read grass and read coverage and find the open void is huge. You mentioned RPOs. Why a slot receiver in RPO? Zach Ertz, tight end though, but was great at it because Alshon Jeffrey, they would throttle. They knew the speed out of the break based on who I was reading, and they knew the void. A lot of guys who just get up and run the route will run through the void too quick.
Yeah, they'll cover themselves.
Yeah, they'll run the right
defenders.
They'll run the
It's
right
maddening.
route on. They'll run the right route on paper, but it's not the right route you need. You need the different speeds. You need the different angles. Having a guy like that knows how to do that excels your game, excels your RPO, opens up the run, opens up the pass. But then let's talk about, Sean Mannion coming from the Green Bay system. They're going to try to run the ball. They're going to try to utilize the tight ends. They're going to go play action. They're going to go bootleg. You need to utilize the coverage. You need to find the feel. Hey, when do I need to throttle? When do I need to accelerate? And the hard catch in the middle of the field. Slot receiver on third down is most of the time a QB's best friend because he's the one finding the tough areas, the basics, all the different benders, the deep crosses. They're finding that void to get open. Travis Kelce was brilliant at this, is brilliant at this. When I was in Kansas City, we had the routes on paper. Travis never ran a route that is on paper in his entire career.
Right.
If I got his route tree right now, it doesn't look like anything in any playbook I've ever had.
The Caleb Downs of offense. Right?
Exactly. But I will tell you this.
schematics.
Timing and rhythm. And Zach was much this way too in Philly. They will be open.
Yeah.
You just have to trust it. And your timing, you need to give them time based on the concepts called. If you drop back and you're trying to feel like the route that you used to seeing on paper or maybe someone else running the league, you're going to get off them really quick. But if you've gained that trust and this guy's going to create separation out of the break and find the void, or even we ran the Seattle route. It's a big tight end route. And both those guys would do this reverse question mark that Andy Reid loved, Doug Peterson loved, that only they could do because they could feel it. It's when the defender's overplaying them and they just throttle down, come back. It's not on paper. It's not even an option.
No.
But they would do it. So having a guy like that ups your game. That's what the NFL's about. But not everyone can do it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reps. And I saw a statistic in his career, he only had 3 drops or something.
Oh,
Doesn't drop the ball,
Yeah.
sure-handed. That's what they need, especially in Philly. Now, what's going to be new to him, being a Southern California guy, going to USC, Philly's going to be different, right? Not only from the fan base, the passionate fan base, the crowd, everyone, they live, breathe, midnight green, Kelly green, but get ready for that cold weather. Yeah. That's the difference. A lot of guys who are not used to cold weather, they struggle in the cold weather, but cold weather is all mental. Because you have to go into those games and say, hey, listen, what I would always do is, man, it's 0-degree weather. No one wants to play in that, right?
No.
But then your mind's like, you know what? We are playing in it. We're going to be out there for 3 hours. I can suck it up, and I'm going to have a better mindset than the guys on the other side of the
What
ball.
did Marv Levy used to say? There's that great line. He used to tell those old Buffalo teams, because, they obviously have horrendous weather up there. It was when it's too tough for them, it's just right for us.
Yeah,
that was his line. What a great line.
But
right? Just a perfect.
But that's
line.
mindset, right?
Sure.
So much
what he needs to do is go into that mode that he goes in before his combine. Press
yeah,
conference.
where he's just sitting there rocking
Find
back
that
and forth
mode before a cold weather game.
No,
That's
seriously, cold weather games are tough. But if you can go out there mentally and go out there and just lock in, it's gonna. Everyone feels the same way. Everyone can't wait to go back in the steam room, sauna, hot tub, whatever. Listen, that's the human element, but then the competitor element is you know what? This is perfect.
Did
this
you
is
ever
be
do
great.
the scuba suit
for
Tom Brady?
Sure. Oh, yeah. So I was with
Vaseline on the arms, and
I didn't do Vaseline, but when I think it was 2014, Mark Sanchez was with me in the QB room. He had come from New York, and he's the one who brought the
wetsuit.
The wetsuit, and I obviously young player, and I'm gonna try anything. So I bought a thin wetsuit because I still need the range of motion. I didn't want the thick one because then all of a sudden your arms But then I would cut it here so I could still have my range of motion, and then you do the heat gear. But what it does is it traps the heat right here in your chest. As long as your chest stays warm, you're good. And then obviously you have the neck thing.
Yeah.
And it's a big game changer.
Wow. I think I might start doing it in the booth. No one's softer than me in the booth.
I'm telling you, just get one of those thin ones.
All
It's
of
a
my
game
toughness
changer.
just as soon as I was done competing, I was just I'm done being tough.
Yeah.
Now I'm up there shivering.
Just
I'm
get a big
guys,
old-
do you have a heated blanket?
close
for
the
me?"
window. Close the window.
Just get a portable heater in here just behind us.
Oh,
Yes.
dude, if it's 50 degrees, I have a portable heater up there. Trust me, it's ridiculous.
All right, Joel. So June 1 for Philly. June 1 lingers.
Yeah.
Right. Regarding AJ Brown, I got a question for you. We bounced around on our last show a theory. There is just the prevailing sentiment out there is that the destination that makes the most sense for AJ is the Patriots.
Yeah.
Right? So one of the theories that we floated out there was that is it possible that there's already a deal in principle in place, and that the Eagles because the Eagles have a need at offensive tackle, or they have a need for depth up front.
Sure.
Right. And so in the third round, they take Markel Bell, who's 6'9", by the way,
Huge.
from Miami. So they get some depth through him in the third round. is it at all possible? Like, let me ask you this first. How much do the Patriots love Caleb Lomu, who they took in the first round? Is it all possible that Howie's eyeballing that kid saying, you want our receiver, that's what we're talking about? Plausible?
That's interesting. I will say, I think that the Patriots' affinity for Caleb Lomu went up exponentially after the Super Bowl.
Okay. With Will Campbell?
Yeah, Will Campbell struggled so much.
Right.
But by the way, he got all the headlines. Who's the other one? Morgan Moses?
Yes.
On the other side? He was a turnstile.
Right.
He was all,
It's like, go ahead.
Yeah. Do you want to hit our young quarterback? Woo! I don't know what's
turn
going
now.
on. Yeah, here we go. You get a hit. So I don't know how much New England is. I don't think that they're gonna want to give up depth up front because I think they're gonna want to solidify those positions around Drake and allow
Which
for
they
an open.
should.
They should and allow for open competition. So I think that if they were willing to give up on one of those guys, it would be Moses or Will Campbell versus.
Do you think
Lomu.
Will Campbell moves inside to guard? I mean, because that was they already
Lomu
said
was a left tackle,
right?
Okay?
That's what Lomu's always.
So
played,
like,
right?
I think that there's now a thought that it's like, all right, Will, like, we're not just going to allow you to struggle out there and develop. So
He was a top 10 pick.
It's either going to happen or you're moving.
Okay.
And whether that's interior or to the right side, maybe they move on from Morgan Moses. I'm not sure.
That's going to be interesting to follow how this thing plays out.
By the
Patriots have
way-
other things they're dealing with right now.
I'm not even going to bring it up.
They do? What's going on?
Just typical Patriot stuff. Things that have nothing to do with football.
Goodness
Par for the
gracious.
course.
Okay, let's go.
By the way, she was the one that broke the story about like A.J. Brown and then linked him to New England.
How do you think
It's
she
like,
got that information? Anyways, that's one thing we haven't discussed on this show. The Vrabel saga, Rossini.
Goodness
I'm sure people are tuning in for that. Let's talk about Eli Stowers, though. So Mackey Award winner from Vandy.
Campbell Award winner.
Campbell Award winner.
Academic Heisman.
They took him at 54.
Everyone
Now
in Philly is like, we do not care
they're
about
like,
the Campbell
don't
Award.
care about that.
Hey, we'll say a smart tight end is helpful.
There you go.
Eagles have a history in the second round at tight end. Zach Ertz being one of them, like a franchise Hall of Fame type guy, maybe even considered a Hall of Famer. We'll see. And Dallas Goedert, both second round picks, right? They go Eli Stowers, a little bit of a surprise in the second round. That wasn't what I was thinking. Edge, offensive line, like somewhere in there. They go Eli. Tell Philly fans about Eli Stowers and what you expect from him.
Quarterback background was, I believe, a 4-star quarterback athlete. Went to Texas A&M to start and tore up his labrum. So couldn't get his shoulder healthy enough to play the position, and so he was going to need to change positions, but A&M's loaded with talent, so he had to do that somewhere else. It ended up being at New Mexico State. He goes to New Mexico State. Jerry Kill was at New Mexico State, a longtime college coach that kind of lives in the background but has been very successful and is a very good coach. He's there with Diego Pavia, and Jerry Kill ends up getting a job with Vanderbilt. And so they all followed Jerry to Vanderbilt. So that's how Diego Pavia and Eli Stowers end up at Vanderbilt. Once he gets to Vanderbilt, they utilized him perfectly. I think he's got great athleticism. He's sure-handed. He's very smart. He's been through a lot in his life, and now he understands how to be successful. He's process-oriented. I would not be surprised at all if he has a successful NFL career because, again, he's got this it's not perception. He's got
like a chip on his shoulder?
It's like a chip. It's like an awareness. I'm just blanking on the word that I want to use right now, but he has perspective. That's the word. He's got great perspective. And because of that, he knows how he needs to be successful. I think it was a solid pick.
Is he a wide tight end or is he a move guy?
I think he's more of a move guy.
Okay, so
they did attach him at times, but he's better as a detached.
So this is another
tight
athletic
end.
pass catching option for them over the middle of the field.
That's
generally
right.
speaking, with
That's
Makai
right.
Lemon.
Well, and they know from like having Trey Burton, who went to Florida, and he was a quarterback coming out. He's supposed to take over for Tim Tebow, and then he was so athletic that they switched him to every single position, and he played all over the place. And then he was an undrafted free agent in Philly, but had a great NFL career. And why do you like those guys that played quarterback? They understand coverages. They understand timing.
That's it.
They understand if they get knocked off their route.
Yeah. Where do I need to be?
Where do I need to be based on timing now?
That's
Because you don't want to get back to your route because it's going to take too long. So I gotta figure out a way to maybe make a move outside, come back in, or whatever it is. They understand that, and that's what enhances their catching. And then your offense is more productive because of that.
There's only 3 positions on the field that are smart. Sorry.
Quarterback, tight end,
Safety,
Center.
tight end, quarterback.
That's exactly right.
Because they're the only 3
100%.
that know what all 22 pieces are doing. That's
exactly right.
Centers are smart. I don't want to, they're next in the pecking order, but they live in that phone booth up there. They understand front structure and maybe some coverage here and there.
The one is Jason Kelsey.
Well, that's once you get to that level, that's a different story.
On average, though, right?
Dude,
Like,
he knew everything.
the dumbest are wide receivers, no question.
Defensive
They know
tackles.
one thing.
But this is coming from a wide receiver.
Defensive tackles, right or left.
I think pass
That's
rushers,
it.
pass rushers are even dumber. Like,
mean-
you have the D gap and get the quarterback. That's it. Like,
But I say that in that when you have a guy who now has excelled at tight end and has a quarterback background, he understands the game through a 22-piece lens.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And not many guys understand that.
Yeah.
The tight ends are so important, and we haven't even talked about this at tight ends. They're the only other person on the field that has to understand the run blocking, the pass blocking, and the route structure and all the timing that go with it. Sometimes quarterbacks don't even understand the run blocking like the tight ends
for
do.
sure.
Only
they
the
know
really
more.
good ones understand
especially
it.
the air raid guys. You guys come out of college, just green grass. And
shade.
when he talks about his reads in college, I'm like, do they think you were like this big dummy back there with the ball?
my
Like, hey,
gosh.
man, like just throw to the open guy. Right?
So I
No, I mean that's basically what we
That's
were.
basically what it was.
I mean, it stunk in film sessions though in the air raid system because like if you didn't complete the ball, I remember I'm not going to say who the coach was, but like say I threw it to the right and the ball has already hit the ground over there. In film, they'd be like, "Why didn't you throw it over here?" Because obviously the defense all moved this way.
I saw
Because
my
you're
eyes.
like, because I
had
threw
already,
it.
but then you're in college, so you can't really say that, and you're like, "Well, okay, I'll throw it over there next
So
time."
I cut my teeth on the West Coast, like black and white.
Yeah.
The timing of the offense is
X
in
and
the
Y hook,
quarterback's
west
feet.
right,
Yeah, that's
east
right.
right.
That's
Yeah,
right. What was it? Z curl, Y go.
Yeah.
Z shallow cross, Z drive. all
Everything
these-
has timing,
everything
rhythm,
has-
purpose.
And we would watch Bill Walsh install it, and everything. Watch Joe Montana operate the offense with his feet. And I remember my first conversation with the late great Mike Leach about offense when I'm starting my career covering college football, and I started asking him some of these questions like about offense. I was like, "Oh yeah, like tell me, like how do you read 4 verts against this coverage and that coverage?" And he's kind of like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like,
This is a legendary
I'm like,
offensive coach, too.
"What are you talking about? Like, what do you, what's the difference in a closed versus an open? What do you do versus a structure if it's low? What do you do versus like quarter, half? Like, how does it change? What happens to the read?" And he was like, "Who are my wide receivers?" And I'm like, "What? No. What's the read?" And he goes, "Who are my wide receivers?" And I was like, "I don't know." He goes, "Because if Michael Crabtree's out there, we're just going to throw it to him." And I was like, this is incredible. So then he tells me a story. This is a great story. That year, this is the Graham Harrell, Michael Crabtree.
the one where they beat Texas.
Beat
like on the
Texas, everything like this. Early in the season, he decides that they're not good completing go balls, and specifically the 4 verticals. I called it all go or all go special.
He called it probably 60.
Yeah, he probably called it 60, something along those lines. And he was like, we're just not good enough at it. And so he told his coaching staff one day in practice, like a Tuesday early in the year, he's like, we are not running anything, an individual, 1-on-1, 7-on-7, team, anything other than 4 verticals. That's it. We're going to run one play the entire practice. And the coaches are like, Mike, what are you talking about? We've got to work on all these different things. And he's like, no. That's all. We got to get better at this. We're just going to run 4 verticals. Then the wide receiver coach starts being like, I can't have Michael Crabtree run 4 miles of vertical routes on a Tuesday practice. And Mike was like, he'll be fine. So they do that. They just run against every coverage, against every single look, against every technique, and they just throw go balls. That's it. That's all. They get to the Texas game later in the year. What do they run? What's that play? It's 4 verticals. What's the coverage? It's quarter, half, and they were cheating to Crabtree, and he's totally double covered.
Yes.
Where did Graham Harrell throw the ball?
Crabtree.
Michael Crabtree. Why? Because they threw that route against every coverage on a Tuesday earlier in the year, and they complete the ball because they had done it. So that was like the difference in the West Coast offense
Yeah.
and the air raid
Yeah.
offense, and that conversation blew my mind.
That's
I walked out of that meeting and I was like, and he like patted me on the back and he was like, "You're all right, son."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, my head was
football
swimming.
simplified like as much as possible.
Well, and it was so much fun to play. And I mean, that was my background in high school. I didn't know, I wasn't taught coverages. I just understood ball. I understood leverage. I understood feel. And then air raid was feel. So I had great success with, productivity doing that. But then my junior year, my quarterback coach came in, Frank Selfo, who's now at Southeastern Louisiana. And he taught me coverages. Like I knew coverages, but he taught me how to read the cover. Hey, too high, we're thinking this. One high, we're thinking this. Man, we're thinking this. So I had 2 years, which actually, I mean, he was huge because we didn't have like a proper footwork. Like it was just all air raid. So after practice, his first conversation with me is like, "You will play in the NFL. You will have a great career." I've coached guys that, and this was like going into my junior year. It gave me that confidence because he had coached like guys who had been drafted in the NFL. So he knew what he was looking at. But he's like, after practice, we're going to have to work on NFL footwork. So we do our normal practice, work on that, and then we go in the film room, and he would teach me based on 2 high, 1 high. Man, it changed everything because not only did I have feel and understand green grass and stuff, but now I started building this coverage knowledge of like, all right, now I got cover 2. The grass is here. We have all go. I need to make sure that I have my seam route bending.
Yeah.
And then, hey, when the safety's cheating, hey, then we did like this little stutter. It's why we beat Iowa. We did a little stutter on the safety and hit a 60-yard pass. Like all those things were from learning more about football, learning more about knowledge. Then you go in the NFL, and I didn't know a ton. And then you're just constantly learning because everything's always evolving because you need to understand coverages and everything. But you also have to have feel. You have to have like be able to play in your subconscious thought when you drop back, be able to rip. But when you understand coverages, like you need to know what everyone's responsibility is and what they're doing. But it also helps with guys like Downs, Caleb Downs, Rondé Barber. I just played off them. I had feel just because they were supposed to be cover 3. I still had to like read them and feel them.
See, I was too rigid because I didn't ever get coached in feel.
Yeah.
And so as a quarterback, one way, I think the only wrong way is to only do it one way.
Yeah.
You can't just play with feel, and you certainly can't be too rigid in what you're thinking about coverage structure. And that was me. I went to Detroit and I was in camp with Mike Martz as the offensive coordinator. And I can remember we had like a big 7 on, and it's cover 2. There's 2 safeties back. And to me, everything was just open closed. And so that told me everything I needed to know about the coverage. And I didn't want these routes against that look, and so on and so forth. So I checked the ball down, and I'm pretty proud of myself in this practice. And Mike Martz is sitting back there, and he's got his hands on his nose like this. And I was like, "What?" And John Kitna was like, "Watch this." And so Kitna goes up to take the next route, and Martz was like, "Why didn't you throw the post?" You know how he's kind of soft-spoken. Yeah. And then I was like, "Oh, I got this answer." I was like, "Oh, well, it's open coverage. They were in too deep, and obviously that's going to take away the post." And I knew I had my check down, and I've got this answer all built up, this rigid black and white answer. And he whips around, and he looks at me and goes, "If that safety was any good, he'd be a corner. Throw the post." And I was like,
Okay.
What is happening?
I love that, dude. I love when coaches come back at you like that. That is so good.
Man, you want the good ones to give you that information, not the bad ones. But man, that's why I love football. Like you're always learning. Like even my last year in the league, I was learning so much, and it was so much fun. And I think you always have to test. That's why practice. Like we talked about Mendoza to start the show. He's not going to be able to simulate what he's going to see on the playing field in practice. But the biggest step I made in my career was not just going out and repping play. Hey, if we're in 3rd down series, and hey, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7, a lot of guys just go out there and they're repping. Hey, we have a go ball and then a double stick on 3rd and 4. Oh, I'm gonna just throw the go ball. It's 1-on-1.
Yeah,
that's what young guys do. You're like, I did it in college all the time. We just throw the go ball. But it's like, no, like the goal is, hey, like if I got a matchup and leverage, let's take either number 2 or number 3. I got an out route and I got a stick route. Let's just complete the ball. Let's get the first down.
Yeah.
And it's those things where like those young players can expand. It's like how practice does matter. I didn't like practice that much as a young kid, but then as I got in the NFL, like I learned how to make practice a game. So then when I got to the game was just, let's just play.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got Joel for a few more minutes, and what we want to do is throw at you some topics regarding college football and how things are changing, right? I mean, things look a lot different than they did 5 years ago, right? You got what appears to be some consolidation of conferences. NIL and portal have changed the game as well. So let me start here. Do you feel so far that maybe there's no returns on this so far, we'll see, but the early returns on the changes, do you feel that college football has become a better or worse system of development of talent for the NFL?
Way better.
Way better, given the changes.
Way better.
Why is that?
And there's some disagreement on this, but I'm in the way better camp. I think that you can see this littered in the draft. I actually just talked about this on my podcast that came out today. We're recording this on a Monday. If you look at the guys who developed themselves into quality NFL draft picks, top 2-day draft picks, it is littered with guys that would have never sniffed the NFL in the old model. Markel Bell. He was a no-star recruit.
This is the Eagles draft pick at
Eagles
tackle.
draft
in the
pick
third
at
round.
tackle.
Yeah.
No-star recruit. Goes to junior college and then gets an opportunity to go to Miami and develop his way into the player that he is today. Cassius Howell, same thing. 3-star guy, Bowling Green. Then he gets an opportunity at A&M. Fernando Mendoza never would have been the first pick in the draft. Why? Because he was stuck at Cal. Cal didn't have the infrastructure nor the coaching staff to get the best out of Fernando Mendoza. He goes to Indiana, develops into the number 1 pick. David Bailey. He was not David Bailey at Stanford.
Right.
He was good.
Which pisses me off. But
smart, but he was okay, right? Like he's a good player.
Good, but he's not
fine.
this. No.
He goes to Texas Tech, leads the country in TFLs, leads the country in sacks, and develops into the second pick in the draft. So and there's D'Angelo Pons the same way. Elijah Surratt, no-star recruit, goes to St. Francis or something like that, and then he goes to JMU, and then he ends up at Indiana. So the draft was littered with guys that didn't have great opportunities to begin with and developed themselves through opportunities and freedom of movement, finding the right situation, and then now they're NFL draft picks. That's going to help the NFL, but it also helps college football because college football, I would make the strong argument, has never been better. The parity that we have seen in college football, you look at even just the first round. For about 15 years, the SEC just owned the first round, owned it. This year, for the first time in a long time, the Big Ten had the most first-round draft picks, but it was only by a few. It was 10. SEC had 7 first-round draft picks, and then the ACC and the Big 12 both had 6. So the dispersion of talent has made college football a lot better. Indiana just won the national championship,
crazy.
which is
Right.
wild, right? Yeah. And we're seeing teams like Alabama rolls out to the Rose Bowl and gets dumped by Indiana running the ball 50 times. That's a better product than what we saw late in the 20-teens when Alabama, Clemson, and Georgia were the only 3 teams that could win the national championship, and maybe Ohio State. So all of these changes, while they are unsustainable, and certainly we're headed for more change and more ground rules or frameworks or guardrails within movement and NIL, those things have made a situation where guys can go find the right opportunity and develop into NFL players. So it's made college football a lot better, and it's certainly made the NFL
the playing field is
give
now.
a quick stat to support that real quick. So group of 6 programs in the draft, 14. Okay, 14 guys from group of 6 programs were actually drafted in the NFL draft. Group of 6 guys that transferred to Power 4, 39 that were drafted.
There you go.
So those are guys. Now, granted, you could transfer in the past. It was a lot less likely. There was penalties, all those things, right? The freedom of movement leads to 39 guys that were at lower-end college schools playing, lower college programs. 39 guys were drafted.
Yeah, you could move in the past.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a penalty, but it wasn't just that. Where are you moving?
Yeah.
Those rosters were stacked.
Yeah.
You couldn't go to Alabama.
Right.
You could go to Ohio State, transfer in and play because they were too deep. Those guys couldn't transfer either. So it's also produced an environment in which the best programs in the country every single year have need. And when they have need, that promotes opportunity for the individual. They can go in there, excel at those places, and develop into draft picks.
And I was just thinking, I mean, for the longest time, those teams in the SEC, I mean, now it's an equal playing field. Now everyone can pay their players.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was just
I mean, I know he gave a first-round statistic. SEC still had the most guys drafted.
Yeah, it was a record. I think it was 87. Yeah.
And then the Big Ten is behind them at 68. The Big Ten had more first-rounders.
By the way, it told you everything that we already knew.
Yeah.
What was playing out on the field in front of us was that the top of the Big Ten had overtaken the SEC, and that's true. The SEC, since Georgia's last national championship, is 0-4 in the playoff against the Big Ten.
Wow.
Right? So the top of the Big Ten has overtaken them. But there's always been this thought and this argument, this narrative, well, the SEC is still deeper. absolutely correct. If you take a look at the programs in each conference that had 4 draft picks or more, the Big Ten had 7 teams that had 4 draft picks. The SEC had 12.
Wow.
So the middle and bottom of the SEC is deeper. They're presenting more NFL eligible type players.
Okay, so from a development standpoint, that's exciting, right? It's gotten better. Now give me something on the negative side. So something that worries you the most about where college football is headed.
The financial model is completely unsustainable. Spending $40 to $45 million annually on your roster is totally unsustainable because 50% of that money is booster driven and not revenue driven. So we have revenue share, but now that's just a floor. Remember, now they're like, oh, you can share $22.5 million in revenue with your players. Well, that just means you have to do that.
Right.
Now, what are you doing above and beyond that? So that's unsustainable because that money at some point, well, a lot of things come with that money, and some of it is that you let go of power. So you're seeing boosters with more power at all these programs. None of that is a positive thing. So some form of structure where, and I don't want to say limit the amount of money, but that we have some sort of guardrail where the programs are similar in what they can give and where they're deriving that revenue from.
Okay. So on the heels of that, can you sort of sum up for us where you see, and long term is up for debate as what that actually means, but where you see this landing from a conference standpoint, from a labor standpoint, where does this land long term?
So I think where it ends up from a conference standpoint is directly dependent on where this ends up from a labor standpoint. So the 2 schools of thought right now are that, well, they're not employees or they are employees. Right. It's kind of a black or white. And there's a lot of people that fight for the non-employee status. Even the players fight for the non-employee status, and the schools are fighting for the non-employee status. That's because employment, as it's defined in federal law right now, is too restrictive for what college football actually needs. And there's a lot of things that come with it that nobody wants to get involved with. Workers' compensation, insurance stuff. Like there's a lot of different things that neither party wants to get involved with. What they're talking about is carving out a brand new definition from a federal perspective through legislation that defines the athletes as a pseudo employee. And you're not going full employee as we know it now under the law, and we're certainly not trying to retain some farce of amateurism or whatever we have right now. So pending on how that gets settled out and what type of structure that organization then has with college football and with the programs, that is going to settle. And then we're going to find out, well, then what can we do from a conference perspective? If it doesn't change and we don't get that special protection of some sort of pseudo employment, what's going to, I think, and this is purely speculative and just kind of a prediction, what I think is going to happen is that we're going to continue to see the SEC and the Big Ten generate more revenue and more power. And thus, they're going to start to get sick of these hanger-ons, and they're going to say, we just need to go do this ourselves. And they'll create essentially a super league, NFL-esque, a little bigger than the NFL, where the SEC and the Big Ten act as your AFC and NFC.
A lot of people feel like that's where this is going without really thinking about it. That's just kind of what they default to.
And
you know
what I think, and this is like a step further, what I think needs to happen if you want to keep the apparatus or the enterprise of college football somewhat intact as it is now, is that you need to start squeezing the value out of the entire schedule. This is something the NFL does incredibly well. They sell a product to CBS and Fox and NBC and then steal some of that product and generate. They're squeezing the value out of everything. They're going international, the entire schedule. They're trying to generate revenue off of. College football doesn't do that at all. We have these individual conferences that sell their media rights, which include non-league games. Then we have a playoff that is a selection-based playoff, and we're only going to put you in that selection-based playoff if you win the requisite number of games because our committee doesn't understand how to value a quality loss. So what does that do? It incentivizes you to not play tough non-conference games. So now we have Little Sisters of the Poor playing the big boys 3 times a year. Well, that's not generating any value out of the schedule. What I think needs to happen is that there needs to be a cohesive non-league enterprise that owns all non-league product postseason and during the season. Once you do that, you could sell that.
And the college football playoff already owns the postseason, right?
Correct.
So can they own the non-conference as well? Or
well,
is it...
they would have to take it, but like the Big Ten would have to
give it up.
Give it up.
Right.
The SEC would have to get it up.
See,
Big
that
12,
identifies to me one of the
ACC.
biggest issues with all this is like these schools, these athletic directors, these commissioners realizing we may have to take one step back.
That's right.
To then take multiple steps forward
That's right.
collectively.
And so
most of them are not willing to do that.
And this is my last point on this, and it's an analogy. You can do all of the things that I'm talking about in the NFL because it behooves the owners to do so with the value long-term of their enterprise, right? And we've seen that. They've taken short-term hits throughout the years in order to build what they have now, which is the most valuable enterprise
like revenue
on the
share,
planet.
for example.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Right.
In college, nobody is an owner.
Yeah.
We got an enterprise of renters. Those ADs aren't going to be there. The coaches aren't going to be there. The presidents aren't going to be there. The commissioners are not going to be there. They're not going to be there long term. So what are they doing? They're making every single decision with short-term benefit in mind and not long-term benefit. And they want to make decisions that benefit them and them alone.
Right.
Like, listen, and that's their job. This is not Greg Sankey's fault or Tony Petitti's fault. Those are the commissioners of the Big Ten and the SEC. It's not their fault. That's their job. The presidents of those universities are telling them maximize it right now, rather than, hey, in 15 years this better be sustainable. And so they make short-term decisions like renters do and not long-term decisions like owners do.
I think people already have forgotten the pioneer that Jerry Jones was for a long time in the NFL, right? Introducing other networks to bid on and make the NFL more valuable. And he thought about the whole thing from an entrepreneur standpoint, from an owner standpoint, right? And to his point, we don't have that in college football. So are people willing to just to give up a little bit for the collective to then grow? We'll have a slice of the pie, but the pie is going to be exponentially larger if we allow that to happen. College football, unfortunately, doesn't think that way.
And a coach is like, future.
Right. What are you talking about?
I got to win next September.
You've probably been asked this before. This is the last thing I'll ask, and then Nick can close us too. Because I think college football eventually is going to need a commissioner. Now, there needs to be an entity before there's a commissioner.
That's right.
Right. So like everyone says, there should be a commissioner of what? The NCAA? Like, what are you talking about? If there was this entity in place and you were the commissioner tomorrow, what's the first thing you'd do?
Fix the calendar.
Fix the calendar.
That's right.
So with player movement and all those things.
That's exactly right. So in my mind, I think you would immediately fix a lot of issues without all the legal structure issues just by fixing the calendar. In the NFL, we compete, we roster build, and then we prepare. And they're all separate. In college football, we throw that all into the same month at some points. And that's part of the reason that the roster building is so difficult and the structure is so difficult. And then the second thing I would do is I would try to make every single agent have to register with some sort of entity. Because right now we have way too many third-party agents that are not acting in scrupulous ways. We can't govern their movement like they can in the NFL. If it was up to me and I was commissioner, I would immediately do a deal with the NFL and say that there is no college football player that can be represented by an agent that is not also registered with the NFLPA. And that would protect the players because right now the players are being taken advantage of in a lot of cases.
It's hard to make any rules because every time, even with calendar, every time they make a rule to restrict anything, they risk litigation. And we're talking about the NCAA, right? And the NCAA has not been able to stand up against any litigation, right? And so until somebody steps up and creates this entity that they're desperately needing, this won't happen.
The entity should be the college football playoff.
Right.
The entity is there.
Yeah, they own the postseason, right?
We just don't have strong enough leadership within the CFP, and the conferences are unwilling to give them that amount of autonomy and power.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, college football has changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's a different game, and I agree with everything. There's one, obviously, University of Arizona is like close to my heart.
Yeah.
There's a player there that's going to go down as the greatest quarterback in Arizona history. Might already be that. And it's pretty impressive. I get chills just thinking about it, going into a senior year. Noah Fafita played his whole career there. And, his head coach after his freshman year goes to Jed Fish goes to UW. UW was throwing a lot more money at him than Arizona was, but he decided to stay at Arizona. It's very different. The allegiance to a college is different. I mean, I grew up, it was like, man, like the allegiance to college, the fans. Like my mom went to Texas. I grew up in Austin, so as a kid, I loved the Longhorns. That was my team, live or die. Like, hey, and there's still kids that like want to play for a specific team, but it's far and few between now. Now it's all about the dollar and opportunity. Noah did not do that.
Yeah.
So like the big thing when I think about him is legacy, and it's very different now because I think he's had the most starts at one college, like in college football right now, going into his final year. What do you have to say for like that part of college football, like a player like that?
I love it. I love to see that. I got a chance to be around Noah at the Holiday Bowl last year.
Yeah.
I think that he's a tremendous player. I think I think he's an NFL draft pick. Maybe not high because of his size, but you bring up a word that I argue quite extensively is and can be attached to college football, maybe even more so than the NFL. Now, having said that, if you can play your way into a Super Bowl championship in a green jacket as a player, you develop a legacy. You have a legacy in Philadelphia.
He said green jacket. He's such a golfer.
I said green, gold.
Yeah.
A
Same
gold
thing.
jacket.
We know what you mean.
I know what you mean. Man. We just had the Masters was just going on.
He's a golfer. It's all good.
You have a legacy and forever in Philly, and that's very difficult to do. At the college level, I think it can be easier to develop that legacy because typically, yes, you have to have success, but you don't have to win a national championship. You just have to be loyal. And when you're loyal to a place, they'll pay you back with their affection.
Yeah.
I would also make the argument that from a coaching standpoint, people constantly ask me all the time, like, why aren't these coaches just going to the NFL? Well, legacy, for one. And also tenure. In the NFL, you're just going to go and get fired in 4 years. Now, you might get fired in 4 years in college football, but you don't have the opportunity to have the impact and the legacy that you would in college football. Like, for instance, if you win a Super Bowl, okay, who's thought of? The quarterback in the NFL. The quarterback, right? Like, Tom Brady is bigger than Bill Belichick in New England, right? You're bigger than Nick Sirianni, right?
I don't know.
Yes.
Well,
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
In college, it's totally different. Like the head coach is the quarterback of the program. And so it doesn't matter who played at Alabama. No one's bigger than Nick Saban.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter that Will Howard won a national championship. Whose national championship was that? That was Ryan Day's national championship. So the ability to impact players, grow young men into men, and develop legacy is something that I think at the college level is afforded you. There's more opportunity to develop that at the college level than maybe at the NFL level. You got to be a gold jacket guy.
Not a green jacket guy?
No. Well,
I mean, if you're a green jacket guy,
that's
you're pretty good. You're doing pretty good
Everybody
too.
listening right now can tell how hard Joel works on this stuff, and yet he still has time to be like a +3 golfer, which is like, and we play golf with Joel a lot. We're all at the same golf club. It is ridiculous how consistent he is, and he's got time for all this stuff too. I mean, I don't know how you have time. And you're still thinking about it right now. Green jacket.
I love golf.
I know you do.
I think about golf all the time. This is work. I lay up at night just scrolling around like, what degree should my gap wedge be at?
Well, we know.
What bounce do we need on the we got Bermuda grass. I need a little bit more bounce on my 60 degree.
See, this is where you and I lack. Like when we go out and play, and they're like, the way the grass was mowed. Hey, the way the sun is hit. It's a little.
I'm just trying to get the ball.
Dang, it
on
just
the
looks
face.
like a right to left downhill. That's all I see right here. You're saying that there's more to this than that?
Oh man, I love it.
I thought I bought this expensive putter. Shouldn't this thing just make it go in the hole?
That's right.
He's playing a different game than we are.
Yeah. Now it all makes
certainly
sense.
than I am. I can't speak for you. He's playing a different game.
It just depends on the day.
You guys had a lot more success playing football than I did, so I just get to talk about it.
And
Well,
just
you do a
work
hell of
us
a
in golf.
job.
Hey, man, you're amazing.
I mean, the information you share with us today and your time also.
Yeah,
thanks.
man.
We really appreciate
love it. I appreciate you guys having me on. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this has been fantastic. Reminder to everyone, subscribe on YouTube. And then if you're on Spotify, Apple, hit 5 stars and follow. This has been episode 41, really special episode here with Joel Klatt. We thank you very much for his time. And as always, thank you for listening.